she was nice enough, but she was kind of stuck up. They were rich. They were the richest family by far. And I never knew Billy because he was older, but he was a professional golfer. And my grandfather on my dad's side, he wasn't a kid person at all. He didn't really like to do things with the grandkids or anything, but he loved to golf. So he and Billy would go out and golf, but they wouldn't invite any of the rest of us to go. So that was Ed Dodd. And then the next oldest one was my Uncle Jim. And he was very quiet. And I couldn't tell you much about him. He said Grandma didn't like him because supposedly he was the one that his parents let get away with everything, and he was the spoiled one. And my dad was the one they kind of picked on. That's what Grandma would say,
Yeah.
Granddaddy was the third oldest, and you know him. He married Grandmama, and you know all the stories about him and his kids, 4 boys. And then the next one was Aunt Jackie, and she was married to a pilot named Uncle Earl, and he was a renowned pilot. When the first astronaut went out into space, his name was Alan Shepard, and the plane, they had the spaceships, they could get them up in the sky, but they couldn't land. So they had to splash down, they called it, which they landed in the ocean, and they had to get out and swim, and then they'd have a boat there to get them. So the first guy that did that, it was off the coast of Florida. Well, it was a real big deal because it was the first man in outer space. And the guy, his name was Alan Shepard. He was going to up to Washington to meet the president. They were going to have a big thing. And my uncle was chosen he was a pilot. He flew Alan Shepard up to the thing. That was quite an honor. And we got to see him on TV, So
Yeah.
he was the pilot of the plane, and they were showing him inside the plane, and my uncle was bald, and we could see his old bald head. I remember we were laughing about that. There's Earl's bald head. That was Aunt Jackie, and they adopted 2 kids. They adopted a boy named Sandy, not the Sandy I was telling you about, because I had a Sandy on both sides, and a girl named Jackie Lynn.
Yeah.
They were both adopted, and Jackie Lynn was a spoiled little shit. I mean, she was real cute, but man, she was spoiled, and just I couldn't stand to be around her. And I guess you kind of think of her a little bit like Jenna, she'd lie and get you in trouble and stuff. And then her brother named Sandy, he was adopted, and he was just kind of weird. And when he got to be an adult, I don't think he ever got married. He got to be an alcoholic, and he worked on these ships, these boats that went off the coast in the Atlantic and fished and stuff like that. And they think he drowned because he just dropped out of sight. Nobody knows where he is or what happened to him.
Was he the Sandy who went on that car trip with you?
No, that was a Sandy on the other side.
Oh.
This is my dad's side.
Okay.
And his name was Sandy Craig. The one that went on the thing with me was named Sandy Houston.
Yeah.
They were both boys named Sandy, which is kind of unusual because most Sandys are girls. So anyway, he was strong, and he was kind of a bully, but not. He wouldn't hurt you or anything. He just kind of let you know he was stronger than you and shit. So I could take him or I could lead him. And like I said, then he got to be an alcoholic, and he came and visited some people in my family and talked to them, and then he went back to New Orleans, and nobody ever heard from him again.
Yeah.
And his dad, Earl, the pilot, died in Sky Harbor Airport here in Phoenix. He had a heart attack in the airport. And his wife had some kind of I can't remember what it's called, but it's some kind of a disease that gets up in your brain, and you kind of go crazy. It's not dementia. I can't think of it. It comes from England. Mad cow disease. That's what it's called. You ever heard of it?
Yeah.
Well, she had mad cow disease, and she'd fly off the handle at anything and start yelling, and she was really hard to be around, and nobody wanted to be around her. And then after she died, they found out that she had mad cow disease. So it's kind of sad in a way because she couldn't help the way she was acting, but nobody knew it. They just thought she was just so spoiled and everything.
Yeah.
So anyway, but then it was my uncle, Aunt Helen, and Uncle, oh God, I forgot him late. And Aunt Aunt Louise and Uncle, oh my God, how can I not know him? Like, it'll come to me anyway. He was real personable, and everybody liked to be around him. He was funny, and he was happy, and he was close to my dad. They were good friends, and Uncle Leroy, and he was funny. He was always telling jokes and stuff, and trying to get you to compete with things, from put in $1 and have a putting contest. And have you ever met my cousin Pope?
Yeah.
Well, he was Uncle Leroy's oldest child, and he has a lot of personality, kind of like Uncle Leroy did. And the next oldest was Craig, and he was my age. And he and Sandy, when we'd have a family thing, they were both my age. They were the only boys my age, and they wouldn't let me do stuff with them, So that's kind of, when I said he bullied me, that's kind of what they did. They wouldn't include me, and stuff like that. So I just wind up hanging around with my brothers, And he was kind of like our Uncle Tom. He went off the deep end. All his brothers and sisters were real successful, and he got in drugs, and he got in alcohol, and eventually he was on the street. He couldn't even, he was homeless. And so Pope wouldn't do anything. Pope wanted nothing to do with it. And the other two, who were both very rich, put him up in an apartment. They paid for him to have an apartment just so he wasn't homeless. And he committed suicide.
Oh,
so that
wow.
both of them that were kind of mean to me passed away. I mean, I don't wish that on them at all, but they did. He committed suicide, and then he had a sister named
Luann.
Luann, yes, thank you. Luann and Ricky. And Ricky was a doctor, and he made a lot of money. And Luann and her husband invented something for railroad tracks, and they became huge millionaires. And then, let's see, who am I missing? Aunt Helen was the last one. And she died not too long ago, but she was in a nursing home for a long time. She had dementia real bad. And she had 5 kids, and her husband was named Uncle Oscar. And I never really knew him at all. He never really talked to kids at all. And when we were older, he came back and came and visited Mom and Dad. And I thought he was a very nice guy. I really enjoyed talking with him. I felt kind of bad because we'd always kind of thought he was not a very nice uncle, but he just was kind of quiet. And talking to him, I enjoyed it. And they had 5 kids, I believe. They had, Oscar and Charlie and Kathy and Dick. They had 4. And then on my mom's side, there was 5 girls. There was also 6, but this time it was 5 and 1 instead of 3 and 3. And Aunt Ruth was the oldest, and she was the one that was real strict and real bossy. And you kind of walk and give her a lot of room because she'd chew your head off, And all the other sisters and brothers, they were all intimidated by her. And her oldest daughter, Lois, won Miss South Carolina beauty contest and got to go to almost became Miss America. She was Miss South Carolina, and we got to see her on TV and all that. And she was just like her mother. She was bossy, and she was a year older than me, but she acted like I was a little kid. She'd come in and she'd go, "I'll get in here and help your mother with dry the dishes or something." And I'd say, I wouldn't do it. I just keep walking. I'd do it if my mom asked me to, but I didn't like Lois doing it because she wasn't, in charge. It'd be a big family reunion. And she'd come out, and then she had a sister that was a year younger than me, and she was the opposite. Lois was a very high-achieving valedictorian in her class, Miss South Carolina, blah, 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 and Margaret just couldn't live up to that. So she was like a hippie kind of, and I liked her. She was one of my favorite cousins. She was just fun to talk to and stuff, and hang out. So different than her. And then she had a younger sister named Dale, and Dale was kind of like, Dale's actually written this on your Facebook a couple of times, and she was one that you just kind of had to watch what you said because she flew off the handle real easy,
Yeah.
So, And then they had an older boy named Ronald, and he was old, quite a bit older than me. I never really couldn't tell you what he did for a living or what he looked like or anything. But Margaret, when when I was teaching this summer, after about my second year of teaching, Margaret came out here and to visit us, and she stayed for about 2 months. And she and my mom got along really good, you know, and it was nice because we went back to school, and so my mom had her for company, and they did things together and all that. But she was kind of hippie. But Mom just thought she needed someplace to stay because her house was so. They put her down all the time, you know, because she couldn't. Her younger sister and her older sister were very successful, and she wasn't. You know.
Yeah.
And I felt bad for her, but she went out with us to the bars, and she was real cute, and she met some guys, and one of Tom's friends, Pete McNay, was really a good musician, and they got together for a while, dated for a while. She'd come, he'd play in the bars, he'd play and he'd sing, and we had a band and all that, and so they had a good relationship for a few months, and that was my oldest aunt on that side. The next one was Aunt Dot. We had a Dot on both sides, just like we had a Fanny on both sides. And she was kind of strange. She was very like a bookworm, you know what I mean? She was an author. In fact, I've got a book here that she wrote called Years from Home. Have you ever seen it?
Yeah, and she called you Almost Handsome.
Yep, that's the book. And she was quiet and just. She wasn't like she just was. She was nice, but she wasn't a fun aunt, you know. And Mom and her did not get along growing up. They were like rivals, and so she had 2 daughters, Sharon and Jane, and Sharon committed suicide also. So she was really not really, but she was obese, and she was born with a club foot. And I don't know why they couldn't fix it. They did with surgery, they could fix it, but they didn't. And she walked with a limp, and she was also like in special ed classes. And you know, I don't think she ever had any friends or a date or anything like that. And just really beat her down. And one day, but she was a year older than me, and I was 22, I believe. So she was about 23, and they were going fishing, and they knew something was wrong with her, but they knew she was depressed, and they kept trying to get her to go fishing with her, and she wouldn't have. She committed suicide while they were gone. So that was sad, you know. And then after that was my dad and his sons, us, and then was Aunt.
Yeah.
Penny's mom, and I'm not remembering any names today. Amy, Molly, not Amy.
Can't
Aunt
even
Ruth,
remember
Aunt
my
Janice,
name.
Aunt Faye. There's it, Aunt Faye. And they only had one child, and that was Penny, who I'm sure you've seen pictures of her, and she answers your email quite frequently. You know.
Yeah.
And Penny and I got along really good. We didn't see each other very often because she lived in Ohio and I lived in South Carolina. But a couple of times we went back to South Carolina for. She lived in South Carolina. She lived in Ohio, and I lived in Arizona. So we would meet just a couple of times in all the years. We happened to be back there at the same time they were, and we stayed at the same house, my granddad's house. And I really liked Penny. We went off and talked about. We liked the same music, and we'd talk about music and stuff. And all our other cousins would pick on us and say, "You can't be boyfriend and girlfriend. You're cousins," and we weren't. You know, we were just talking. You know, there was no boys my age in my mom's side. You know, so
Yeah.
so we just go out and we're still friends. You know, so that's nice. And then it was my uncle AC. And he was the only male on that side, and he had his kids were wild as heck. They were wild before, but his wife died real suddenly, and he had 5 kids to bring up, and he was completely unfit to be a doting father. He worked on the road. He had a explosive business, dynamite, and he worked all over the South. And it wasn't unusual for him to be gone for like 2 weeks. And the oldest one of the kids was about like in high school, Cindy, and then Mike. Mike was the oldest, but he had hemophilia, which is a bleeding blood disease. And then the youngest brother, Bob, had it also. And then there was a middle brother, Danny, and he didn't get it. He didn't get the bad genes. The other boys did. And the girls can't, for whatever reason, girls can't get it. Only boys can get it. But we went and stayed with him. John and I, when we graduated from college, John and I took a trip in his car. He got a brand new Barracuda, which is an expensive car. We drove it back to South Carolina, and that was our graduation present. Mom and Dad paid for the whole thing because we were gone for a month, riding around and seeing things and just having a good time. So we stayed at AC's, and we kind of like to stay at AC's because it was almost like a motel. We'd go and come when we wanted, we'd leave when we wanted. He'd be gone. We do things we took the kids to a baseball game, and they have a place called Stone Mountain in Georgia. Have you ever heard of Stone Mountain?
No.
Am I losing you, sweetheart?
No, I'm listening.
Oh, okay. Well, Stone Mountain's this huge. It's one stone. It's a huge mountain. And on the side of it, you know how at Mount Rushmore they carved the heads of all the presidents?
Yeah.
Well, they carved because that's in the South. They had all the Southern generals like Robert E. Lee carved on that, and we took them to see that, and we went to the baseball games together. And Cindy, Cindy was a senior in high school, and I was like 4 years older than her. And we're looking through her yearbook, and I saw a girl, and I said, "Well, that girl's cute." And Cindy wanted to set me up with her, and it never happened. But she kept saying, her name was Shannon. She said, "Yeah, Shannon wants to meet you," and all this stuff. And I said, "Okay, whatever." No, John didn't want me to do it because he didn't want me to go on a date and leave him with all those little kids,
Yeah.
He said, "Don't." But he goes, "Bob, you're never going to see her again, so why do you want to go out with her?" I said, "Well, I don't know. I might like her. I might come back here and move back here and marry her. I don't know." But, I never even met her because, I could understand how John would be a little put off being left with all those kids. The kids were wild as all get out. But they had a bathroom. This was when we were younger, when we went back with my family. They had a bathroom off the kitchen, and the door didn't latch. So the first time one of us went in there to go to the bathroom, they go running, they open the door. Look at Uncle Bob, look at Bob, he's taking a poop. Oh, jeez. So John and I sat down and said, "Look, we got to buddy up on this." Because they were out of control, And I said, "If I have to go to the bathroom, you're going to guard the door. And if you guard the bathroom, I'll guard the door and keep those little shits out of there." Yeah. So I go in, and John's guarding the door, and I sit down, and I look, they've got a trap door in the roof, and they're climbing in the attic, and they're looking down on me going to the bathroom. So now we had to go in threes. John would go, I'd take the door, and Tom would take the attic latch. And we kept saying, "Dad, can we please go someplace else?"
That's so funny.
Dad liked it there because he and AC were good friends.
Yeah.
Mom liked it all right because AC was her brother, but the place was just an unbelievable mess. It really was. And in fact, when we went back, John and I, we went by theirs on the way because that was right on the way. We stayed there for about a week. And I remember there was a Pepsi sitting there on the coffee table right by where my feet was. And I came back about 3 or 4 weeks later. That Pepsi was still sitting there, but it was now it was stuck to the table. It had been there for a month. And whenever they do their clothes, and they just throw them on the floor, and so the whole place would be like wading through waist deep clothes, And that one pile might be Danny's and one might be Kim's, but Cindy was the only one that would try to keep order, but she was outnumbered so bad. The rest of them were just wild. And none of them had a bedroom. They just slept wherever they kind of fell,
Yeah.
Like if one of them might sleep on the couch one night and sleep in a bed the next night, So they had rooms, but they just didn't use them. They just, like I said, they're just kind of wild. And I was, they said, my youngest one on my mom's side was Janice, who I was telling you about earlier. And she had a son, Sandy, and then she had a daughter, Robin, and a daughter, Nancy. And that is your great uncles and great aunts.
Yeah.
And cousins. And trying to think of how many cousins I have. Let me see. I probably had 25 cousins. I bet you I did.
It's a lot.
Yeah. Well, you have a lot if you add up all the moms.
I don't even know how many of cousins
well, you've got
I have on
Uncle
mom's
Mike's,
side.
You got Uncle John's 4, Uncle Mike's 3, Uncle Tom's 2. That's 9 on our side. And on mom's side, I wouldn't know, but Nikki had 1. Craig, I believe, had 2.
3.
Steve, Jeff, you'd have to ask Mom. Petey had, what, 3?
2. I have no idea.
Petey had Johnny, and then he had Lincoln.
And Valley.
Yeah, so he at least had 3.
3, you're right.
Jeff had, I believe, 2. Steve, I don't know. So you have 9 on our side, and on their side it might be pretty close to the same number, 9. So you might have had 18 cousins.
Yeah.
And that's a lot.
Yeah.
You don't remember going back to see them, do you? You're probably too young.
Not very well.
We went back in year 2000. You would have been 4 years old. In fact, when was your birthday? Yeah, you were 4 years old when we went back, because we went back in August. And I'd never met any of them. They had like a party every day, you know. I mean, every night they had a big barbecue thing, and they had a party just every night. And I asked somebody, I think we asked Mickey, they party every night? She said, oh, no, just because you guys are here. So they did it 5 mile. We were there 5 days or so. And they had a little creek that, you know, unlike Arizona, they actually had little creeks that run and don't stop, you know. And I asked, Steve picked us up at the airport and was driving us back, and there was this huge lake on the left. And I said, Steve, what's that lake? He goes, oh, I don't know. I mean, it's a huge lake, but there's so many lakes in Michigan, they don't even know what half of them are, you know. For us, it would have been everybody would have known it because we don't have any lakes. And they had a river, a little creek that ran by their houses, and me and I don't think Chris went. He might have gone, but we went to the about 4 or 5 miles, and we had 2 cars, and we got out, and they drove the other car back, and they left the other car there, and we had inner tubes, and we rode the creek all the way down to the house, and then we got off, and they went with a car and got the other car and brought it back, and that was fun.
Yeah.
And Paul, you know Paul, Nikki's husband.
Yeah.
He and I would go out and play Frisbee because he was a good Frisbee player, and nobody would play with him there. But when I was there, I really liked it, so he and I went out and we played Frisbee for every day. And then he and I went golfing. He didn't get along, I don't think, with Mom's brothers too well. I mean, they didn't fight, but they just didn't have anything in common. So he and I went golfing together, and we played Frisbee together, and we went fishing together. You know, he took me and Chris fishing he had a friend that had his own little private pond, and he had little boats, little rowboats, and it was his own on his property, so people didn't get to use it, and it was just full of fish. And they had one big barracuda in there, and the barracuda was is a meat eater. He was killing off all the other fish. It was it was about 3 feet long. And he had a thing that if you could catch that barracuda, I forget, he would give you something like $25. He just wanted it out of there because every time you put in baby fish, the barracuda would eat them.
Yeah.
So that was kind of fun, going back there. We stayed in a trailer. Do you remember that?
Yeah, and I was like, pretend you're dead.
That's right. That's where that was. Yeah, Mom was coming back and said, okay, let's put the dead. He goes, yeah, right, pretend you're dead. We died laughing. You know, you were a funny little shit. And you caught your first fish there. Remember that?
Yeah, the sunfish.
Well, it was tiny. It was smaller than the hook, I think.
No.
It was real tiny.
That's funny.
That was your first fish that you caught.
Yeah.
And then you got sick when we were down at I think at Craig's house. They were having a barbecue, and you got sick, and I took you back and gave you a bath and put you to bed. And I stayed there with you, and and Bridget's brothers were kind of couldn't believe it. They act like Bridget's the woman; she should go take care of the baby. Bob shouldn't have to. He's the man.
Yeah.
That's not the way I think.
Yeah.
I said, this is Bridget's family, and she should have the freedom to visit and not have to worry about a sick child, because I'm perfectly capable of taking care of Molly,
Yeah.
and Bridget knows that she can have fun with her friends or her relatives and not have to worry about it. And then if it was reversed, then she would have taken you and I would have been with my friends. But they couldn't quite get that, especially Jeff,
Yeah.
because he was a big macho woman, should have to take care of that kind of stuff, men go hunting and bring back the bear meat, I hate to say that, but that was fun. That was a fun vacation. And you were born when we went to Lake of the Woods up near Pine Top, Arizona. We had a big family reunion on my side at a place called Lake of the Woods, and it was a little cabin that you rented. It wasn't a little cabin, it was a big cabin. And it had like, I think 8 bedrooms. And it had a hall in the middle, a great big room in the middle where everybody dined. They had benches, and there was a big fireplace, and we all got together. I think Kelly and you had not been born. Like, I know you had Amy and Tracy were babies, little babies. And I put it together. How you kind of organize things.
Yeah.
Like you organized my birthday thing and stuff like that. You're kind of the organizer. I was kind of the organizer. And Grandma I got the Lake of Woods, and I told everybody we could go there. And it was right on the lake. And they had a little boat we could use because since we're renting the cabin. And we wouldn't have to go anyplace. I said, we just get there, we'll stay there for a week, and we have to drive it. Mom said, no, let's just everybody come here, and then one day we'll drive up to Oak Creek, and then we'll come home. The next day we'll drive to Sedona and come home. The next day I said, Mom, all we're going to be doing is driving. Drive to Grand Canyon, drive to Oak Creek, drive to Sedona. I said, I just want to go someplace and, not have to worry about driving. She goes, well, maybe you don't get your way all the time. Okay, well, put it this way. I said, my family is going to go up to the Lake of the Woods. And if anybody that wants to come with us, there's plenty of room. You're welcome to join us. And you can do your little thing later, or you can do it at the same time, or not at all. But we're going. Because it wound up, everybody went. And Mom came and apologized to me because she said she was the best not kid. All her kids at one place, and not have to worry about it. And, Mom got a little feud with your mom. Bridget got a little feud with my mom.
Yeah.
Because when they got there, when we first got to the cabin, Wendy, what was Mike's? Tracy, I don't know. Trish was there, but I don't. She wasn't in the middle of it. Wendy and Mom, when they unloaded, they said, we're going to go to the grocery store and pick up groceries and all that stuff. And they wanted Bridget to come with them, and she didn't want to. She wanted to visit. She said, I didn't come here to cook and clean and do all that unless it's my turn. But, so Mom got mad at her because that's the way my mom grew up. They had a big family reunion, and all the women would cook the meals, and they'd all be out there talking, and it was a social thing. But Mom didn't want to do it. She wanted to run around with everybody else. And so Grandma got mad at her. Grandma and her had kind of not a great relationship anyway. But I backed your mom up. I told my mom, I said, she came here to have a vacation like everybody else does. And if cooking and cleaning isn't something she enjoys doing, I'm sure she'll be glad to take her turn, but she's not going to do it. Wendy and Mom did it the whole time. They like to do it. It's their talk, And, so that was a little bit of a feud, but it didn't really cause a problem too much. And we've got pictures of it somewhere. I'll look, see if I can find some pictures of it. Tracy and Amy, there's a really cute little picture of them. Let's see. Amy was born in April, and this was August, so Amy was, 5 months older, and Tracy was a couple of months older. And we've got a picture of them. They're laying side by side, and they're both looking at each other with look like, what the heck is that? They're both looking at each other, kind of a puzzled look on each other, you know. And it's really a funny picture.
Yeah.
So we had a good time. You're kind of the historian of this family, honey. I'm going to write some of this down for you to help remember.
You should.
But, you know, when I'm gone, you're going to be the one that I'm going to hope can tell the people, you know,
well, when
names
I see you again, I hope we can sit down and record some of your stories on the camcorder.
Well, can you do it on something that's not the camcorder? Because if you do it on the camcorder...
Well, I mean, like on my phone or something, we'll film it. Are you there? Are you there? Yeah. Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. But I was saying, can you use the telephone to tape it, the smartphone?
Yeah, I said I'll film it on my phone.
Okay, well, think about it. We could always, I guess the camcorder's still working. We could still do it and then make DVDs out of it or whatever.
No,
but I think that's a good idea. So let's do that here before we get too much time away from us, because, you know, we talk about that kind of stuff and it never happens, and then it's too late, you know?
Yeah.
So let's start that as soon as we can.
Okay. Sounds good to me, Dida.
Well, thank you for letting me talk. I just kind of bored now. Now I've enjoyed talking and visiting with you, and now I'm tired and ready to go to sleep, I think. What time is it? Is it 9?
It's 8.
8 o'clock?
Yeah.
Well, I might play a little tunes on my radio or on my record player, or I might not. I might go grab a snack to eat, or I might not.
Yeah. I'm gonna go make dinner.
Well, you have a good dinner, honey. I love you so very much.
I love you so much too, Dida. I'll talk to you
Thank you for that
tomorrow.
letter. You just have such a good heart. You really do. I was telling we were talking today, Amy and I talked for a while too, about when you guys were babies.
Yeah.
And I was telling her how hard Chris was the first about 3 months, you know. And Amy wasn't as hard as Chris for 3 months, but she went longer. She went for about a full year, you know. And I started saying, yeah, and Molly, I couldn't think of anything. You were always such a perfect little baby.
Yeah, I was the best kid.
Amy was colicky, and Chris was, he was new, and we couldn't get him on a schedule. And you, from the day you were born, you're just kind of a happy little baby.
Yeah, it was the best one.
Yeah, it just, and it wasn't like you were surrounded by easy. There were some problems going on around you, you know. I mean, Mom and I you were probably 7 or 8 before our relationship started going downhill. But you know, we had some problems with Chris. You know, he overdosed on pills, and he overdosed on liquor. We had to go to the emergency room twice for him.
Yeah.
And Amy, you know, she had her little thing. She'd run out that, climb out that side in the yard, and she didn't get along with Mom at all. She's come a long ways, but she'll tell you, she'll say back in those days, I hated Amy. I mean, I hated Mom.
Yeah.
You know, remember that letter she wrote to you saying, Mom and Dad treat me different than they do. They treat you different than they did me. That's why I'm mean to you sometimes.
Yeah, you told me about that.
I've got it somewhere. I'll show it to you. I thought it was very insightful and very sweet. She was she recognized what was going on, and she was apologizing to you for it, saying this is why it's going on. You know, basically saying it's not anything you're doing, Molly. It's just that they're playing favorites, and it's hard for me to deal with it.
Yeah.
You know, so she's a good sister, though. That's for sure.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
A little bit of a nerd, but not too bad.
You're a nerd.
I love you, though.
I love you so much.
Good night.
Too.
Sleep tight. Don't let the bed bug bite.
Okay.
I had called Nancy for about 3 days. She doesn't call at all. And then when I call her, I just said, "How did you eat tonight?" "Yeah." "What'd you have?" And then usually she can't remember. And then I'll say, I haven't been out walking or anything because, I say, "Oh." I say, "You have anything to say?" And she'll say, "No."
Yeah.
I say, "Okay." I say, "You're doing okay?" "Yeah." "Okay, I'll talk to you later in the next couple of days." So.
Well, it's hard for her.
I think that she's gonna be okay when I leave because she's not like sitting back depressed or anything. So I ask her, "Are you okay?" And she always says, "Yeah." So I think that even if I was gone, she'd probably be okay.
Yeah.
I think, and I don't think that's true a year ago, but I think it is now. I don't think this thing that's going on right now bothers her very much.
Yeah.
Like if everything was normal, she'd go, like when I go in the car, she likes to ride in the car. But I don't think if she doesn't, it doesn't seem to bother her very much. I said, I tried to get a little conversation going. I said, "Have you talked to your daughter, Brenda?" And she said, "Yeah." I said, "So how's she doing?" "Okay." "Well, is anything you want to tell me about Brenda or Carl?" "No."
Yeah.
And it's not that she's being rude or anything. She really can't.
Yeah, it's hard.
And I don't understand it because it doesn't seem to be frustrating or upsetting or making her angry or anything. It's just, that's the way it is,
Yeah.
And when we go for walks, I've always told her she has to be 6 feet behind me or in front, and she will not be in front. She insists that I go in front. And then sometimes she's got like 30 yards behind me. I look way over there. "Nancy, you can be closer than that."
Yeah.
So anyway, honey, I love you. Have a good dinner, and I will talk to you again tomorrow, I hope.
Okay, I love you so much.
I love you, baby. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
You'll always be my baby.
I love you. Bye-bye.
Oh. Oh. Let's go see Daddy.
You're a weirdo.